Today on Commander Replay, why choose a single tribe when you can play them all? Watch as we check out this deck built entirely of tribal commanders, next on Commander Replay. Hey guys, I want to take a quick second to thank my awesome Patreon supporters. We have a returning Patreon supporter, Daniel Fierman. Daniel, you are awesome. If you guys want to help support the channel and vote on which decks I play next, feel free to check out my Patreon at the link below. Welcome back, everyone. Playing some Tribal Commander Tribal, led by General Tazri. Take a look at our opening hand. We've got 3 colors of mana. I'm going to mulligan this one. I'd like to see a little more mana ramp. Rhystic Study is something that's helpful. We'll keep this one. This one's got some mana, and it's got some card draw in Rhystic Study, plus a board wipe in Crux of Fate. So, Tribal Commander Tribal. This is a deck built around legendary creatures that care about creature types that are commonly tribal commanders. There's going to be a little trick in this deck, which we'll get to a little bit later on, that I'm very excited about. But for now, turn 1, we draw into a Varina Lich Queen. We did win the die roll, by the way. So I think we're just going to go Breeding Pool tapped and pass turn. And today I am joined by one Patreon supporter, Chaotix2075, piloting this Isperia the Inscrutable deck. It is a flying tribal deck, so should be pretty good. The name of this game was Janky Tribal Decks, so we'll see what opponents have. We do have an Ur-Dragon opponent in the game, most likely Dragon Tribal, wouldn't expect anything other than that. And then we have a Karador opponent, hopefully on some sort of tribal, because a full-power Karador deck is very, very strong, so I'm hoping it's not that. We draw into a Zendikar Resurgent. That's a really big draw once we can get that down. So for now, tap that. Play the Steam Vents tapped. Nothing going on 2 mana. And we will pass turn. There's a Grand Abolisher for the Isperia. Sure. Lightning Greaves for the Ur-Dragon opponent. Topplegeist for the Karador. Please be Spirit Tribal. That would be a sweet Karador deck. Enters the battlefield, tap target creature an opponent controls, and if opponent has Delirium at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, there are 4 or more card types in the graveyard, tap target creature that player controls. Those type of effects are actually really, really good. I've been using the Giant that does that, and I've also used Dragon's Mode on Citadel Siege, and it can actually slow decks down quite a bit, so cool little effect once Delirium is online. That brings it back to our turn. We draw a Captivating Vampire, no black mana yet, so gonna play the Reflecting Pool and then just play the Rhystic Study. We do need to catch a black mana source in order to play Varina. Unless we draw like Scrubland, we probably won't be able to play Varina next turn or a 5-color land. No attacks from the Isperia opponent. So far we have a nice slow game of Commander going on. No crazy explosive starts, something that I can get down with. I've been playing a lot of high-power Commander lately, and sometimes it's nice to just, have everyone make their land drops and not worry about a crazy number of mana rocks coming down super early. Karador going to cycle an Eternal Dragon, go plane cycling. Cool. Oh yeah, opponent lays down a Path of Ancestry, so very likely on Spirit Tribal. Opponent going to swing into us for 1, sure. We draw a Slyn Voda. That will not be super helpful anytime soon, but we'll just keep playing lands. We have 4 colors of mana. Are missing black. Black is gonna be the key for us to do much of anything. Hopefully we can get some card draw going in this next turn cycle with the Rhystic Study. Opponent's gonna crack their Myriad Landscape, sure. And they get some planes into play. And a Reliquary Tower. Cool. Gonna drop down a Lantern of Insight. So we get to draw with the Rhystic Study, sweet. Oh yeah, there's a City of Brass, awesome. Ooh, there's our Mirror Entity. Uh-oh. Now the secret's out. So the trick to this deck is slam as many tribal commanders as we can, and then you play Mirror Entity and use the ability, and all creatures you control gain all creature types. So whatever abilities you have on board, every creature will gain those abilities. So that is the trick with this deck. That's why we're playing General Tazri, because when we cast General Tazri, we can actually search for Mirror Entity right out of the deck. Now, one thing I did consider using Sliver Overlord. Sliver Overlord is a little bit slower, but if the game does go long for some reason, then it becomes better, because there are some other changelings in the deck that we can search out as well. But I decided to go with the one that was just a little bit faster and gives the pump effect on it with General Tazri. There's a Fist of Suns coming down for the Ur-Dragon. We're going to get to draw again with the Rhystic Study. Sweet. We draw the Mirror Entity, and there's a Krenko. So I think everyone probably getting a look at what our deck's up to now. The Dragon opponent showing a Steel Hellkite on top of their library. That's a little bit scary. Ooh, boots. Do have boots. There's a Door of Destinies coming down for the Karador, and doesn't look like opponent's going to be paying for that Rhystic Study. So draw more cards with the Rhystic Study, draw the Krenko, showing Najila on top of the deck. And now we have a ton of cards in hand. I don't know how we're going to get all these things out of our hand. Top guy is going to swing into the Isperia. Sounds good to me. So we draw into the Najeela, showing a land on top. Lands are always good. Play the City of Brass. Down to 9 cards in hand. We're probably going to have to discard 1. Probably just going to be mana efficient and play the Dramoka. And then we have to discard down to 7 cards in hand. How much do we realistically need Slin Voda? What don't we need? Najeela is cool. That gives us extra combat steps. Varina's cool. That gives us some looting. We seem to be drawing a lot with Rhystic Study. No one's really paying for it, so I'm going to get rid of Varina. Just because we're already looking at a lot of different cards. So here comes Isperia. Opponent going to pay for the Rhystic Study. Sure. We got 2 lands and a Savage Ventmaw on top. Chaotix showing an Enlightened Tutor on top of their deck. Whoop! Ur-Dragon coming into play. That seems pretty good. We do get to draw with the Rhystic Study, though. Drawing that land. We are showing another land on top. There's the black mana that we've been looking for. So I'm thinking about going Captivating Vampire Najeela next turn. Don't really want to expose our Mirror Entity just yet. Would prefer to get Zendikar Resurgent down first, and then do all of our hijinks with Mirror Entity. Want to try to keep that Mirror Entity protected. Oh, hey, that's an Ur-Dragon swinging into us. That seems pretty big. Opponent's going to get that Ur-Dragon trigger. Yep, that's a pretty good one. They lay down a Lathless. Oh, man. Do we block or do we not block? I think I'm going to take the 10 right here, block next turn, and then the following turn after that, use Crux of Fate, destroying all dragons. Sounds like the plan. Dragon opponent showing a Temur Ascendancy on top of their deck. That's a pretty good one, too. Haru Ana coming into play. It's a spirit, enters the battlefield, draws a card. Whenever you cast a spirit or arcane spell, return it to its owner's hand. You may return it to its owner's hand. It's going to trigger that Door of Destinies. Seems pretty good with Door of Destinies. So brings it back to our turn. We draw into that swamp. We are showing a Sylvan Library on top. That's a sweet one. I don't know that we necessarily need a lot of card draw, but we can at least reorder things. That's not the worst idea I've ever seen. So we're going to try it. Hopefully we just don't get blown out by stuff right here. But all right, so play the Captivating Vampire. Play Najeela. And we're just going to stay put with the Dramoka. Ooh, Chaotix has an Archetype of Imagination on top of their deck. Creatures you control have flying, and creatures opponents control lose flying and can't gain flying. My Angel deck actually got wrecked by this thing one time. One of the things that makes Angels good is the fact that they all have flying. Enlightened Tutor coming down for Chaotix, and that's going to draw us into the Sylvan Library. Drawing so many cards. We have a Cyclonic Rift on top. That should surely get us attacked. Glorious Anthem coming down for Isperia. Also showing an Authority of the Consoles on top of their deck. That's actually good for the boots that the dragon has out currently. So Goryo's Vengeance on top of the Spirit Library. This is actually a pretty interesting interaction with the Haru and Door of Destinies, because if they blink that thing a few times, it is 4 mana, so I guess it's very slow, but, you know, you get 3 counters on Door of Destinies, your spirits are then very, very large. Opponent going to send the Ur-Dragon into Karador, and Lathless into the Isperia opponent. Sounds good to me. So Ur-Dragon's going to trigger. That brings in a Savage Ventmaw, and that's going to trigger the Lathless. Yup, that's pretty good. And opponent has a Balefire Dragon on top of their deck, so yeah, probably looking like that Cyclonic Rift. Dragon opponent got a lot going on. I gotta rebuild my Dragon deck, especially my paper one. My digital one is alright, but my paper one is just like in complete disrepair. I really need to tighten that thing up. So Isperia gonna block the Lathless, sure. Nothing happens. They take a few jabs at each other, but nothing happens. Opponent's gonna lay down a Steel Hellkite. Yep. We get to draw with Rhystic Study. Sure. Draw the Cyclonic Rift. Feel pretty good about that. Man, the Dragon's deck, so the Dragon's opponent is having a pretty good go of things right here. Like, that never happens to me when I play the deck. It's turn 6, and they've got, what, 35 power on board. I do not understand. Uh-oh, Spirit opponent's got a Fog on top of their deck. That could be annoying. Yes, the other thing we could look at, too, we could just look at playing Crux of Fate on Dragons. That'd be pretty funny. Opponent can always recast their, opponent can always recast Ur-Dragon, though, with Fist of Suns, and that seems pretty good. I took Fist of Suns out of my deck. Maybe I need to leave it in. I'm not sure. I feel like most people took it out. I guess it's only really good for casting the Ur-Dragon, because using Fist of Suns, you don't get to use the Eminence ability when you're just hard casting things, so I don't know. Always had weird feelings about that. I guess if we Crux of Fate, though, then opponent can just recast Ur-Dragon and swing into us super hard. We draw our Sliver Legion. Nice. So I think that being the case, I think it's going to be Cyclonic Rift time. Play the Volcanic Island. We could sit and wait on the Cyclonic Rift, but I want to get rid of the blockers, and there are two blue opponents at the game, and they're both basically tapped out right now, so counterspell shouldn't be a problem. Like, when you have a blue-white deck, you have to worry about counterspells, so letting them untap seems a little bit risky. So we're just going to fire this thing off right now, and should something happen, we'll at least know that it's going to get countered, and we don't get blown out from, the Rift being countered. So Cyclonic Rift resolves. Very nice. That'll probably get us a lot of card draw, too, with the Rhystic Study, as people try to recast things. We're going to send everything into the Dragon opponent. They've been fairly strong, and take advantage of this moment while they don't have tons and tons of dragons in play. So Dramoka the Eternal is going to trigger. We get the Bolster 2. We will bolster the Najeela. It's now a 5/4, and we'll get a 1/1 warrior creature. Send that into the dragons as well. So dragons takes a little hit and goes down to 25, and we'll pass the turn like that. Here comes Authority of the Consuls. That'll prevent things from coming down with haste, since they'll all come in tapped, so that'll be nice. Opponent pays for the Rhystic Study. Interesting. Isperia coming back to play, and looks like opponent's going to pay for that Rhystic Study one more time. Sad face, no card draw on that round. We'll see what the dragon opponent's got. If they just, try to hardcast Lathless, they may not have the mana for Rhystic Study. We'll see what happens. Nope, there's a land. Paying the life. Here comes the boots. We get to draw. It's a land. Sweet. Keep making those land drops. Here comes a Darksteel Ingot. We get to draw one more time. There's a Taurine Mauler. Sweet. Got one of our changelings. Fist of Suns coming back to play. We draw Sigarda, Heron's Grace. Interesting one. You and humans you control have hexproof. And opponent discards the Ur Dragon, puts it back into the command zone. Yep, makes sense with the Fist of Suns. There's a Kokusho coming into play. Kokusho is a spirit. We get to draw with the Rhystic Study. Draw into another land. Opponent will get to scry one time with the Path of Ancestry. That brings it back to our turn. There's Sosuke, son of Shishiro. What are we going to do? Let's... I want to get the Zendikar Resurgent into play, because once we do that, then we'll be able to get a lot more things out of our hand next turn. So Zendikar Resurgent into play. Play the Stomping Ground untapped. Play Sylvan Library. Let's do some attacking. Send a little shot. Send a small poke into the dragon. Send the bigger ones over to the Isperia. Get their life total moving a little bit. So we get 2 Najeela triggers this time. 1 into the dragon, 1 into the Karador opponent. Isperia, you're going to do some blocking. Blocks the dragon. So each opponent losing a little bit of life right there. That's going to bring it to our end step. I'm going to discard the land, and so Suke makes it so that our smaller creatures can trade up into the bigger creatures, but I think everything else in our hand is significantly better than that. So yeah, I guess we discard that one. Isperia, you're going to swing into the dragon's opponent. One thing we have to watch out for is that Emrakul is a flyer, and that's something you can tutor up with Isperia. See if opponent has enough mana for that. They have 2 card types in their graveyard. They have 8 mana, so I think they're short of Emrakul. Emrakul is something that could get us kind of bad. See what Isperia goes tutoring for. Opponent reveals their hand. Patriarch's Bidding, Temur Ascendancy, Steel Hellkite, Lathless, Hellkite Charger, Balefire Dragon. All very good cards, but all get much worse with Authority of the Consuls and Lightning Greaves in play. If Authority of the Consuls weren't down, I probably don't attack with the dragon last turn. See what flyer opponent grabs. Gets in Azor the Lawbringer. Can't cast instant or sorcery spells. I mean, if they play that, ooh, Azor coming down, that is really good. Because now opponents can't play board wipes. We draw into Lyra Dawnbringer, so we can gain some life back too. Life gain would be pretty good. We have a lot of really good things, actually. Sliver Legion is insane. Once we use the Mirror Entity, and Lyra Dawnbringer also pretty good. Ooh! Island Sanctuary! If you would draw a card during your draw step, instead you may skip that draw if you do until your next turn. Oh, nice, it doesn't take effect until next turn. Ooh, that's lucky. There's a land, so we can make our next land drop. Does come in tap, sadly. Here comes the Ur Dragon back to play. Rhystic Study will trigger one time. Opponent's going to pay for the Rhystic Study. And opponent going to put the boots on the Ur Dragon. Door of Destiny's coming back for the Karador opponent. Rhystic Study will trigger. We get to draw. Find a Kodama's Reach. And Haru Ana coming back to play. There's Eladamri, Lord of Leaves. So many forests are in play. There's a forest. There's a forest. Brings it back to our turn. Sylvan Library is going to trigger. Take a look at the top. The Prismatic Omen back on top. And we'll put the... Do we want the Sliver Hive Lord? Yeah, we'll put Sliver Hive Lord. So right here, play the forest. Gonna tap up some mana. Let's get... I mean, we can probably end it right here. So it's turn 9. Reasonable game. Opponents didn't really play any removal on us, so turn 9 against no removal is, you know, a lot of games actually end a lot quicker than that, so can't feel too bad about it. Play the Sliver Legion. We get to draw a card. There's the Indestructible Sliver. Authority of the Consoles will trigger. Play Lyra Dawnbringer. Zendikar Resurgent will trigger. Authority of the Consoles will trigger. And then let's go for Mirror Entity. And then we're going to use the Mirror Entity to make all of our creatures, X is going to be 5. All of our creatures will be 5/5s and gain all creature types. Let's go to combat. They all gain lifelink. Send the dragon into the dragon opponents, the vampire in there, that thing in there, that thing in there, that thing in... maybe I should do the math. Yeah, I should probably do the math. Although, yeah, Najeela should be able to... Oh, yeah, Najeela's tokens will finish it easy. So that there, that there, that one there. About 1 million triggers go off. Bolster ability is going to trigger a bunch of times. We've got some choices on the bolster. Bolster there, bolster there, bolster there. Then Najeela's ability will go off. Dragon opponent scoops it. Authority of the Consoles will trigger. And let this resolve. Oh, the new tokens are 1/1. Someone may survive. Opponent feeling the hurt of Tribal Commander Tribal. Oh, so they go to -22. Crap, the spirit opponent survives. We go up to 123 though, so we'll have a lot of time to course correct if we need to. Oh, what do we discard? Our mana feels pretty good. I think we can live without Prismatic Omen. Let's get rid of the Grand Colosseum. Take a look at our basics. There's only, I think, 7 basics in the deck. There's 2 right there, so we have plenty left to get with Kodamas. Let us get rid of... we'll get rid of Sigarda, I guess. Krenko. So, Spirit Opponent's going to get one crack at it. Basically has to be a board wipe. Maybe a Ghostly Prison, but even that's probably not quite going to do it. Opponent's going to recast that Topplegeist. It's going to tap a creature, trigger the Rhystic Study, trigger the Door of Destinies, and trigger the Haru. So that's going to bring it back to our turn. Sylvan Library is going to trigger. Take a look real quick. Yeah, we can put those back on top. Play the Tropical Island. Comeuppance would kill all of our creatures. What else could they have in black, green, white? They could have... I don't know, not too much that I'm worried about, so I think it's just a matter of attacking with everything. Put 6 mana into the Mirror Entity. Give everyone all creature types. And we'll send in a couple tokens. Oh, that puts so many triggers on the stack. Well, Najeela's should go quick. That's good, since there's only one opponent now. Is it Comeuppance? Don't be Comeuppance. Oh, they got a Fog. All right, well, they're going to get one more crack at it. Rhystic Study is going to trigger. Haru's going to trigger. That's why I didn't completely tap out. They had a lot of mana open, so I figured they might have something. Forgot about the Fog. So main phase 2, we'll play the Sliver Hive Lord. That cuts down on the number of ways that opponent could possibly kill our stuff. So do that. Zendikar Resurgent will trigger. City of Brass will trigger. We draw into a Sig River Guide, and then we'll play the Kodama's Reach. And since we have exactly blue-white, we'll lay down the Sig. Why not? There's an Ojutai. So opponent's going to need like a Exile Hall creatures. There are a few of them. They don't get run as often as they should, but they exist. Ugin would do it. Here comes a Birthing Pod for our opponent. Better pod into something good. Rhystic Study will trigger. There's an Asceticism. I mean, the key to this game has been Rhystic Study, Cyclonic Rift is really what's been doing the bulk of the lifting. Without those, this game goes very, very differently. Opponent's going to sacrifice their Kakusho to the Birthing Pod, sure. And there's Puskami, destroy target non-black creature. All right. We can give our creatures indestructible. Opponent's going to shoot our Lyra Dawnbringer. So right here, we will use the Mirror Entity one time. And that'll trigger the Soul Shift. So they can get back the Kakusho. Well, that's something. That's a cute little trick. So we use Mirror Entity, give all of our creatures all creature types, and now they are all indestructible. Oh, and opponent scoops the match right there. That seems fair. Seems totally fair. So, Tribal Commander Tribal. One, I can't believe that this actually worked. Like, it feels like it shouldn't. But I guess our opponents didn't play any removal against us at all. So when that happens, you know, you kind of just have free reign to do whatever you want. Like, a single board wipe slows us down so much. Also, and like I said, we drew a million cards with this Rhystic Study, and then we got our opponents pretty good with the Cyclonic Rift, which, against that Dragons deck, which is all about kind of cheating costs and big expensive things, when you Cyclonic Rift a bunch of dragons like that, that hurts very badly. So those are the two cards that, like, made us win, but in the same hand of doing that, we also got to see the deck and see what it's capable of. You know, when you have a Sliver Legion, and every creature you make becomes a Sliver, they all get huge. So, I mean, that's one of the best Lord effects out there, I think. And then also, I mean, the other Sliver, give all Slivers indestructible, is also ridiculous, too. So, yeah, fun little deck. Basically a creature types matter kind of deck. And for me, I focused on a lot of the legendary creatures, many of which you may find in the command zone slot of a tribal deck. One way to go with this deck that might be really interesting is to get rid of a lot of these 5 and 6 mana cards and really focus on a lot of like 2, 3, and 4 mana lords that have been put out over the years, and really kind of focused on the best of the best. And that could be interesting. Like, you might actually have like a fairly strong deck, you know, maybe compete at the higher end of like mid power, and if it goes really well, I don't know, maybe even like kind of high power decks, lower end of high power decks, maybe, I don't know. But yeah, like when your creatures start spreading all of their abilities, and that, you know, and that's what this kind of feels like. It kind of feels like playing Slivers, except with a bunch of non-sliver cards. When you're giving all of these abilities to all of your creatures, it's sort of like the non-sliver sliver deck. But yeah, when you do that, they get really strong. Like, Lyra Dawnbringer giving everything lifelink is awesome. We went up over 100 life, and yeah, we didn't get to use the Krenko, but we could have made a bunch of goblin copies of all of our stuff. And oh man, yeah, this deck is fun. I want to play this deck again. It was very fun. We had Najila out, and Najila is a very good card. Made a lot of tokens for us. Captivating Vampire, we didn't really get to use. Well, I guess we didn't have to use it. Once we had the Najila and the Sliver Legion, really pumped out a lot of damage. If it was a slower game, we may actually need to steal some stuff. So, I don't know. Yeah, this was a lot of fun. I want to play this deck again. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, feel free to comment, like, or subscribe. Thank you for watching.